Hello and welcome to our program. We have a very, very, very fascinating guest with us today. Dr. Teresa Montgomery Okumabwa. Did I say it right, Teresa? Say it for me. Okumabwa, which is a Nigerian name. Let me just take a few seconds here and read some of the impressive accomplishments of our guest. Dr. Teresa Okumabwa not only received a PhD in child clinical psychology from the University of Memphis, but also set a world's record in the 60-yard dash as a world-class sprinter. Figuratively speaking, Dr. Okumabwa has never stopped running. She has co-authored a book on child and adolescent disorders and served as an adjunct professor in the psychology department. Her concern for young people culminated in receiving grant funding for a program in adolescent pregnancy prevention for young women and men as well, and also for a program focusing on responsible adolescent parenting. The second program seeks to minimize the negative effects of early parenthood by encouraging young women to stay in school. In addition, Dr. Okumabwa has helped implement a rites of passage program for elementary, junior, and senior high African Americans through the imparting of information about their cultural heritage. The purpose of all these programs is to help young people learn what it means to be responsible, productive citizens. In 1995, she received the Young Alumni Award from the University of Memphis and the Women of Achievement Vision Award. Impressive.
Thank you.
Your name is Teresa Montgomery Okumabwa. Montgomery is an English-sounding name. Okumabwa is a Nigerian name, Igbo, I believe. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that.
Well, as I was telling the young lady as I came through the door, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and she says, Atlanta, Georgia? That name is not from Atlanta, Georgia. So you're right. My husband's from Nigeria, from the Igbo tribe, and so the name, Okumabwa.
And you have two children?
I have three children. 14-year-old, 7-year-old, and a 6-year-old. So I have my hands full.
And you're a practicing psychologist?
Yes, with the Memphis City Schools. I'm a supervising psychologist. I work with pregnant and parenting teenagers. I also do part-time private practice, and then I'm on the adjunct faculty at the University of Memphis.
You're quite a busy person.
Well, I like being busy.
The name of this program has to do with problems, America's problems, mm-hmm. and Afrocentric solutions. And we talked about like rites of passage programming, your work with teenage parents. Tell us about this, the grant that you got. What's the formula for success?
Okay. Well, I have several grants that I am implementing in an effort to minimize the potentially negative effects of a young woman or a young guy becoming a parent too soon, as well as some grants to prevent young children from becoming pregnant, parenting too soon, or begin involved in other risky kinds of behaviors, such as dropping out of school, becoming involved with gangs, just getting involved in negative stuff that would be detrimental to their health and well-being. I started working in Memphis City Schools in 1989, and as I started that work, was trying to find some strategies to help intervene with pregnant and parenting students. And some of the stuff that we started out using just didn't seem to be working. And so we started looking at the literature, and also just looking at our own background, and started to put together some pieces of the puzzle, and eventually turned to rites of passage, which teaches young children values. It teaches them all kinds of skills and expectations about what they should do and what they should be as responsible adults and citizens. So we have found that approach to be very receptive in our community, and the students like it, parents like it, the teachers like it, community has responded very well to it, and it has been an approach that has worked for us.
So rites of passage is essential to the success of all of the programs in terms of building that sense of responsibility?
Well, Rites of Passage is a holistic program, and so we are touching bases with all aspects of our children, and we are approaching it from a multi-systemic and a multi-dimensional perspective. We involve the parents, we involve the community, we involve the students, and we're constantly teaching them and training them. Providing positive experiences for them, exposing them to the positive things about themselves, versus always being confronted with the negativism of their community, of their racial background.
In terms of preventing children from having babies, it's the same concept, as well as if they already had a baby, it would be the same concept of being a good parent. In other words, the responsibility aspect.
That's right, that's right. I mean, because we are teaching and training students what is expected of them to be a good, responsible citizen. You know, and whatever it takes to be a good parent as a 16-year-old, it really takes the same kinds of things for the 29-year-old. Unfortunately, a lot of our 16-year-olds just don't know what those things are. And it's not just the things that make you a good, responsible parent, but it really are the same kinds of things that are interwoven into all aspects of our life, into their academic life, into their leisure life. You know, there are some things, there are some expectations that will create positive outcomes. And so those are the kinds of experiences, those are the kinds of skills that we try to teach our students.
Now, what exactly is meant by rites of passage? It seems like that's a term that suggests a certain time in the maturation process of going from a child to an adult. And this program looks like it's a holistic lifestyle, if you will.
Actually, we're focusing on only one stage, which is the adolescent stage, and the rites, the passage from childhood to adolescence. But there are multiple rites of passages in our lifetime. Being born is a rites of passage. Dying is a rites of passage. Wearing your first stockings, if you're a young girl, that represents a rites of passage. Getting your driver's license. So there are multiple things throughout our lifespan that are really rites of passage. Getting married, having children, naming those children. All those are really events that lead us from one stage of life to another.
So what your program is, help me with this if I'm not doing it properly, representing it properly, but your program is an attempt to say that African Americans, there's an assumption that African Americans perhaps are not connected with the African way of rites of passage, ritual, routine, so forth. And even though you die, even though you wear your stockings, even though you do these various things, you're not really aware of the sense of responsibility as adult, or as a child even.
Or how all of that really fits into. You know, we need to do A, B, C, D, E, F before we get to G. And I think what is happening a lot of time in our culture, we're doing A and B and then want to skip to G. And so there's a lot that should be taking place that our kids are missing. I think within our culture, we still hold to a lot of the cultural ways of doing things and belief systems. Such as I am my brother's keeper. Traditionally, in the African culture, that was one of the hallmarks of belief systems, is that I take care of my brother, I take care of my sister.
But we're shooting each other on the streets now. We're selling each other crack cocaine now.
Absolutely, and that is the breakdown. That is the breakdown, and that is the kind of thing that we're trying to teach our children, that this is an aberration. This is not what we have traditionally believed. And not just the children, as we work with the parents, we also try to bring that back to their consciousness. And so through the kinds of activities that we do, for example, community service projects within our community, even within our group, you know, the kids viewing each other as brothers and sisters, respecting each other because of their age, turning to each other for help and assistance. These are the things we're trying to bring back to their level of consciousness so that we can return to some of those core principles that have helped us to survive throughout the ages.
So you focus on values, acquiring a certain value orientation and relating to each other.
It is a value latent curriculum approach. In fact, I was talking to someone recently, and we were talking about problems in not just the African American community, but any community. And this individual said that if I had to say there was any one thing that was determining the deviations that we're getting and the problems that we're getting, it has to do with values. That there is a breakdown of values in the African American culture, and Hispanic culture, and the Native American culture, and it's leading to, you know, the problems that we're seeing in our communities. And, you know, at one level you think about it, I think that's pretty much true, is that we've gotten so far away from the values that held us together.
Why? I know you're not a historian, you're a psychologist, but someone once said that there's a relationship between the thinking process and the process of acting to make history. Why do you think we've gotten away from African values, being African people?
Well, I mean, that's a real hard question. Very, very difficult. But
I told her I was going to stump her, folks, and asked her a hard question.
You know, we aren't just living in society by ourselves. I mean, we are part of a whole, and we are trying to integrate, become meshed with mainstream America. And so in doing so, we're incorporating a lot of the values that don't quite fit in with the way we have traditionally done things. So, you know, I think that's one reason, but I'm sure there are, you know, many, 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 many other things that are impacting upon why we're making those kinds of changes.
It's a phenomenal thing that you really have to go back to the roots, don't you? Some ways of defining progress can be how far you go from the beginning, and other ways of defining progress can be how close you come back to home. And the more you live like your ancestors, the more you can develop that sense of resiliency to resist all these.
In fact, that's one of the things that we are trying to bring to the consciousness of our children is valuing spirituality versus materialism. So we don't have to have the big fine Cadillacs or the big houses or a lot of money to be content and to be happy with ourselves.
Your program experienced success. How do you determine success with this?
Well, researchers and evaluators want to see things like reductions in teen pregnancy, fewer low birth weight babies, young girls returning to school within the first week of school at a greater rate than some of our other teens who are not involved in our program. And so we do have that kind of data. But the thing that I value the most are the parents who come to me and say, this is working. I have one Hispanic family that the son was in our program, and after one of our activities, which was an African American Knowledge Bowl, the parents said, and they said, I wish that I had had a program like this when I was growing up. And I said, well, wonder why. And so the father said, because my son can call himself Eppolito now. When he came into this program, he was calling himself by some nickname. But because of what you have taught him, he uses his name that his family gave him. And he says that very proudly. So the father himself, liked it, and he wanted to have that kind of experience for himself.
Well, that brings up two questions. One, your program is called an Afrocentric approach. And of course, at some point, either hopefully off the air, you're going to jam me for my Afro, right? We'll talk about that, maybe even on the air. But you mentioned that this family was of
A Hispanic family.
Hispanic family, you said. And can you elaborate on how the Afrocentric approach even helps not people from other cultures than just the African culture?
Well, a lot of our programs are implemented within the school setting. So we are inclusive. We do not exclude any kids in our program. We do, from the very beginning, tell them that it is based on African culture and African principles. However, as with that little Hispanic kid, when we talk about their country of origin and stuff, we will talk about Spain and their own ethnic group. And we try to get them and their families to share the positive things about their culture and their ethnic group. And you know that there are a lot of commonalities in the Hispanic culture as well as the African culture. But mainly in those situations, we try to involve the families more so that the students do learn about their own cultural background. Now, we do operate from the premise that men should work with men and train boys, and women should train girls, and that it is best that individuals from the same ethnic background provide the training for their children. So in situations where we have children from other ethnic backgrounds, we will try to bring in people from their ethnic group.
Would it be fair to say that that's an African concept itself?
That's right. Acceptance of all. For who they are, it doesn't matter, yes.
And even as we can recall, remember Roots, it was like the men would educate the boys and the women would educate the girls.
Right.
So that there you have so people would know their roles.
That's right, absolutely. Absolutely. Now that doesn't preclude us from having activities where the young men and young women are together.
Right.
But we do try to separate out the groups in the training.
The concept of Afrocentric, why can't I have a zero in Afrocentric? Why does it have to be FR?
Well, I think of Afrocentric as the hairstyle and the Africentric as being centered in Africa. So, you're okay. You can continue to use that if you like.
She's jamming me on television, on my own program, folks. But let me give you the rationale for that. If you know, there are prefixes that designate nations or countries, Sino, Russo, Franco, Anglo. So it simply suggests like the whole concept, as you know, Malifia Sante's ideal of Afrocentric curriculum and so forth. So it's just a way of practicing kuumba, right? And kuumba, which is an African concept of creativity, to just do that. So we're all on the same page. Really,
that's right. We understand each other.
But going back to the idea, though, of African culture, it seems like the concept of culture itself, which relates to life and connectedness and understanding of self, is a universal idea, so that no matter who the youngsters might be in your programs, even from mainstream white America, that the ideal of being connected to cultural tradition is an idea that can foster a greater sense of self. You mentioned the young gentleman who began to call himself by the name his parents gave him at birth versus a name perhaps that somebody else, maybe a gang or something. What was the significance of that?
Just a nickname. He was not proud of that name, that his family name. So he was, and people would say, I can't say it. So an attitude. So rather than go through that on a daily basis, he became.
Oh, I see. He lives in a culture.
Oh yeah, he lives within the. He goes to a really predominantly black school.
Okay, and the black kids and the black authorities there perhaps would have difficulty with his name.
Absolutely, they wouldn't try to say his name. Now, another change also took place though, in that the students also began to value him and to value his name because they came to understand the importance of names. So not only did Eppolito's attitude change, the students, his friends, his peers' attitudes also changed.
Now that gets at another concept of the concept of naming.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, what's wrong with naming your kid somebody on the soap operas or some rock star? I mean, what's wrong with that? I mean,
we deal with that every day. And because we have so many of our kids who have these different names, I'll call them different names. The way we approach that is to try to get our kids to find out how their parents named them and why they named them that. And then to really, once they understand that they were named for a special reason, because more than likely the kids are named because of some positive quality that their parents saw in that soap opera star.
Oh yeah?
Yes. I mean, they aren't just naming them these things because, for some negative reason. And so we try to build on the positive aspect of that name. And when you see yourself in that way, that my mom named me because she saw this person as beautiful, she saw this person as powerful, intelligent, whatever. Once you start seeing yourself in that way, then you begin to behave in that way. Now, on the other hand, we also try to teach them the significance of names that are given to you because of of an occasion, or because of something, a positive characteristic. So we try to teach them about that, but we have to start with what we have, and so we use what we have, but we approach it from a positive standpoint rather than something that is negative.
And that's critical, isn't it? That everybody has to see something positive.
That's right.
In their name.
That's right.
That's a very critical point. Again, going back to the whole values, you have to value yourself, your name. Self-esteem seems like it's a big part of your program. Is it?
Well, self-esteem, enhanced self-esteem is a byproduct of our program. I hear people all the time talking about they're going to teach, they're going to train self-esteem, and that doesn't happen. Self-esteem is something that you develop as a result of being able to carry out something well, or to do something well, to say something well. So it is an acquired quality as a result of something you do. So because our kids get positive experiences, or they have positive experiences, then their self-esteem about themselves, about black people in general, about their academic performance, whatever the domain is, because they have a positive experience in that domain, then their feelings about themselves change. For example, we sponsor an African American Knowledge Bowl each year. And again, remember now, we're working with pregnant, parenting, and other kids who are not normally in the mainstream of the high-profile academic kinds of activities. And our kids learn all these facts about African and African-American culture, and they compete against each other. And for some of these students, for the first time, they're winning something. And so you can just see
winning
the self-esteem, the evaluations of themselves changing versus the way they saw themselves originally.
So winning is a big part of this whole concept of developing a greater feeling about self and accomplishment. You're a winner. You have a world record, a 60-yard dash.
That was a whole 100 pounds ago.
100 pounds ago? Tell us about that. They're giving us the sun. We only have 3 minutes, but I got I want the people to know about this.
Well, I went to college on a track and field scholarship. I spent my first 2 years at Tennessee State with the Tiger Bells, and then I graduated from Southern University in Baton Rouge. I've been on several USA track and field national, international teams. In fact, I was on the second USA team to tour China, and that was way many years ago. And I have, just had lots of positive experience as a runner.
And you had the 60-yard dash at the collegiate level record?
Well, not just collegiate, it was nationally.
It's the record?
Indoor. Well, that was a long time ago now. Evelyn Ashford and all those folks have probably broken that record 12 times, but at the time it was a world record.
We got 2 minutes left. They're showing us. What year was that?
I'm not telling you that.
She's cheating us, folks. But here's the thing. The concept of winning, you mentioned is a very important part of your program. Do you, like with the youngster who now can call himself his real name, what kinds of activities are built into the program to ensure that each youngster will be a winning personality?
We do a lot of cooperative kinds of things, and it's not really winning as much as it is having the opportunity to participate and to experience different things.
And in doing so, you are positively reinforced.
That's right.
So in a sense, you have won in that.
Okay. In that sense, but you don't have to be first. You don't have to be first, But we have the African American Knowledge Bowl. We have Take Our Sons and Daughters to Work. That's a national activity that we participate in. We do community service projects. All of our students must learn their creed. All of them must read a book by and or about a person of African descent.
What is your creed? We got 30 seconds left.
30 seconds. I am somebody. I'm responsible for my behavior, the result of my behavior, and what I become in life. Life does not accept excuses. I will not let my need to be accepted by the gang keep me from doing what is right. I am somebody. I am unique. There never has been and never will be another person like me. I don't have to pretend to be something that I am not. I am somebody. Losers let it happen. Winners make it happen. Therefore, when faced with a mountain, I will not quit. I'm going to keep on striving until I climb over, find a path through, tunnel underneath, or simply stay and turn the mountain into a gold mine. I will do my best. I know I can. I am a winner. I am somebody. And that's by Mr. Williams.
Mr. Williams.
J.A. Williams.
J.A. Williams, Joel? J.A. Williams?
I don't know, but J.A.
J.A. Williams. On that creed, folks, as you can see, this is a wonderful, wonderful program, a program that promises to not just help the African American community, but all of America can benefit from it. And we really thank you for tuning in. We thank our wonderful, wonderful guests. Until next time, so long.